Good morning, everyone. My name is EVA.
I'm Miguel.
And I'm Renee, and we're your hosts. Welcome to Signals in the Noise, daily insights into trends in Florida's narrative landscape.
Signals in the Noise takes a look at news articles, social media content, and other platforms to identify conversations, messages, and stories that reinforce ideas, beliefs, and values that we interact with every day.
This allows us to identify the shape and color of how meaning is made in the landscape in which we're all organizing and communicating. This is what we call monitoring the narrative weather, and we are your resident meteorologists tracking everything.
Each morning, we'll take you through the latest, where we cover stories of importance. Then we'll move to Hot Takes, where we look at viral content, and we'll wrap things up with On the Radar, a segment where we talk about real-time stories that we're tracking. Let's get right into our first segment, The Latest.
All right, everybody, the topics for tomorrow's night's presidential debate are in, and they are fighting COVID-19, American families, race in America, climate change, national security, and leadership. If these sound familiar to you, it's probably because they haven't been changed much from last month's debate.
Because neither of them were actually debating, just yelling at each other. At least this time we'll actually be able to hear the candidates' answers since the commission decided to actually cut off mics when they aren't responding. I also noticed they finally listened to people who pressed the debate commission for not adding in climate change because it won't matter who the president is when the planet's dead.
That is so real, EVA, and also kind of dark, a little scary. I don't understand why you have to beg for them to talk about climate change when the world is literally burning. But I am looking forward to the silent Trump yelling gifts and whatever content will come out of this.
Oh, agreed.
Definitely keep an eye out for the memes. Now for today's episode, we wanted to bring you a pre-bunking guide by topic for Thursday's debate. So pre-bunking is kind of like debunking, but instead of responding to falsehoods, you anticipate what they could be and inoculate them with facts before they spread. So have a pen and paper handy to take notes because we're going to run through a lot of topics here.
Keep in mind, though, that all of this entirely depends on whether or not the president commits to showing up at all. If we're lucky, maybe the fly will make a comeback. Who knows? When it comes to COVID-19, Trump will likely bring up his travel ban to China, which he claims was met with resistance from the Democrats. The Trump campaign has continued to make claims that Joe Biden sided with the Chinese while calling his travel ban xenophobic. Trump's xenophobia has been on full display during the pandemic as he's relied on anti-Chinese tropes and has directly blamed China for the virus in an attempt to deflect blame. Biden, on the other hand, has remained a strong critic of Trump's xenophobia at large, critical of the administration's dismantling of the pandemic response he has helped set up during the Obama administration. We know there's still not enough scientific data to determine whether Trump's travel restrictions slowed the spread of the coronavirus and saved millions of lives, as he claims. He lacked a plan to control the virus and instead focused on reopening too quickly and promised a vaccine would be ready before the election.
Yeah, I wouldn't say Trump's travel restriction 2 months after learning about the deadly pandemic means his response was timely and quick.
True.
On the topic of American families, it will likely be a place to talk about immigration and family separation policy, unemployment and adding jobs to support families, and a place where Trump can tout that he is the best president for minorities. Trump may also use this time to bash back at Biden using his dog whistles of protecting suburbia in an attempt to attract white suburban women, a voting bloc that is dropping off support for his reelection. Biden may use this time also to tout himself as a family man and make himself more personable and palatable to undecided voters.
Yes, and for some women, the Trump administration has marked a political awakening that has powered women's marches, the Me Too movement, and a record number of candidates to Congress, many of whom were responsible for voting for him in 2016. Mm-hmm. Some have realized that their whiteness and womanhood will not protect them from fascism, especially with the SCOTUS nomination of Amy Coney Barrett and what that could mean for reproductive rights.
Race relations in America is a topic both candidates struggle with. As we saw in the September debate, the focus may again be on the movement to defund the police. If they can get past their talking points on police and Antifa, Trump might uplift the Platinum Plan, which has garnered the support of celebrities like Ice Cube. The fact is, the Platinum Plan is just a proposal, not a commitment to Black Americans. It promises to prosecute Antifa as a terrorist organization, despite the fact that it's not an actual organization. I feel like I have to reiterate this. Antifa is not an actual organization. Another fact is that Trump and his cabinet have falsely equated all activists and protesters as members of Antifa on several occasions, while telling the Proud Boys to stand back and stand by. With what we know about the Proud Boys in Florida, those comments have consequences, and they could double down on voter intimidation tactics as in-person voting continues.
Mm-hmm. And in regards to climate change, Trump has largely denied its existence. This is clear in pulling the country out of the Paris Agreement, removing clean water protections, and seeking to fast-track dozens of major energy and infrastructure projects. Yeah. Biden, on the other hand, has penned a $5 trillion plan for climate change, even though it does not address fossil fuels. Examples of well-performing content on climate change and its role in Florida are from the New Florida Majority and Representative Lorraine Ausley, who share the belief that Florida needs to be protected, not just for us, but for future generations.
National security is an area where Biden might shine, given the opportunity. He may bring up his record as VP, his role on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and winning bipartisan compromises. The topic of national security may be another opportunity for Trump to elevate baseless claims about Biden being an ally to socialism and communism, and conversations of Castro Chavismo may arise on right-wing Latinx Facebook groups, all of which have helped influence the Latinx vote in Florida. And if we can get to the topic of leadership, Trump and Biden's records will be on full display for everyone to see.
That was a lot.
That was a lot. I hope everybody caught it, but if not, you can always come back and watch us later. Now with that, let's move on to our next segment, Hot Takes.
One of the top news stories out of Florida highlights voters shattering the opening day record for early voting, with at least 350,000 people casting ballots. This is in addition to more than 2.5 million mail-in ballots, which is more than double the 1.2 million during the same time frame in 2016.
We love to see
Go
it.
Florida. Also, I don't know if folks saw, but Ariana Grande sent voters waiting in line hundreds of pizza boxes through the program Pizza to the Polls. God truly is a woman.
Oh my gosh, Ariana Grande, pop star darling, queen of ponytails, and mutual aid. We love to see it. We love this character development. We love it.
Oh, queen of ponytails just takes me out. In order to address concerns of voter intimidation by bad actors at the polls, Miami PD thought it would be a great idea to increase their presence at early voting sites in order to reassure voters.
I can't think of what could go wrong in this situation, but please continue the story.
So many things.
Oh,
Officer Daniel Ubeda was in full uniform with a badge and gun and wearing his Trump mask inside of a polling location.
Yikes.
While a story on Local 10 centers on the idea that free and safe elections are the backbone of our democracy and that the police are there to protect that right, the Miami Herald quickly reported that Officer Ubeda will be reprimanded. Not all cops are Trump supporters, but some cops are, and that could be unsettling to voters who see this as an intimidation tactic.
For sure.
Look, we know that voting is one way folks participate in democracy, and it is something that should be protected. But this is definitely voter intimidation, like textbook voter intimidation. I'm literally just going to have to yell voter intimidation all the time, aren't I?
Yes.
Just yell it into the void multiple times a day for the next 13 days we have before Election Day. We'll just let that sink in for a minute. And while you do that, let's move on to our last segment, On the Radar.
As reported by News 4 Gainesville, others on Twitter, and local organizers on the ground, we're following the story out of Alachua County, where emails claiming to be from the Proud Boys are making their rounds in what appears to be an attempt to intimidate people into voting for Trump. We're doing our own investigation to verify if this is a legitimate threat from the Proud Boys or a phishing attempt by bad actors, since the IP addresses to some of the emails have been linked to servers in Saudi Arabia, Estonia, and Zurich. We've also discovered voters in Alaska also reporting getting similar emails.
Yeah, and we're tracking stories and conversations related to voter apathy, the idea that leftists aren't voting for Biden, especially after stumbling on a mega thread on Reddit about millennials' disillusionment with democracy being higher now than at any other time in the past century. Ooh, it's been a rough week, everybody. We'll also be monitoring conversations on the Green New Deal after the debate by millennials and Gen Z voters and conversations on climate change in Florida if and when they happen.
And on the conspiratorial side of things, we'll also be taking a look at right-wing fringe conversations, especially as it relates to Laura Loomer's congressional race to represent Florida's 21st congressional district. In case folks aren't aware, Loomer used to be an alt-right influencer and a proponent of the QAnon conspiracy theory. Despite a multi-platform ban against her, we know her base is nationwide and are spreading disinformation related to the conspiracy theory, some of which may hit the congressional district that she's running for.
And in more local news, we'll also be tracking stories and conversations on COVID relief in Florida in regards to rental assistance, especially as Floridians worry about the wave of evictions days after the moratorium expired.
Well, fun stuff we're tracking, everybody.
So fun.
Stuff.
So fun.
And it's only Wednesday. Who knows what happens in the rest of the week?
We'll keep everybody updated.
Yes, definitely. That's our job. Well, that's all for us this morning. Thanks for tuning in to Signals in the Noise. Have a great rest of your day, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.